Hello everyone, this is Marcus from the Deep Dive Discography Podcast. Today, I am honored to be speaking with Scott and Cory from Carnifex. How are we doing today, fellas?
Fantastic.
Well.
Excellent. So this tour, what I really like about it is you have some of the older deathcore bands and some of the more younger up-and-coming bands. It's almost like the old guard passing down the torch to the new guard.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we're like 17 years deep now. And yeah, exactly what you're saying is what we hear a lot. But I have to tell you, from our perspective, we're still kids trying to make it.
Well, I was going to say the new
Sharing the torch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like we've even started yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still feel like we're still trying to prove ourselves, you know? So kind of, I guess I push back a little bit, like, on the idea of, like, we're this kind of secure legacy act or whatever. Like, I don't feel that personally at all, you know? I feel like we're still trying to fight to get bigger tours, like, you know, like Lamb of God and all those bigger bands, they still don't take out deathcore bands. And so it's like, I feel like we're still trying to break that, like, glass ceiling of getting deathcore out of just the underground, you know?
I was going to say, I feel like the most recent bands that have been coming out and stuff, even your guys' most recent album, I feel like deathcore is becoming more legitimate in the eyes of the general metal fandom. And obviously when you guys started out, deathcore was not well respected amongst that kind of general metal audience. But now I feel like the tide's turning a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this too. The audience has always been worlds more receptive than the industry. So the unfortunate thing about the music industry is it's wrought with gatekeepers, and for the most part, these are old white guys, and they thought new metal was like where it was at, and they thought like deathcore and all that other stuff was a joke, and so they absolutely suppressed deathcore for years and years and years. That's why you never saw deathcore bands on big tours. That's why you still don't see deathcore bands on big tours. So I think, like, really what it is it's the audience, their voice, their support. This show being sold out, this whole fucking tour almost being sold out.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where, like, the genre, regardless of gatekeepers, has become undeniable.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I was going to say, too, like, as time goes on, you guys have changed quite a bit, too, and I wonder if maybe the way deathcore is going into more of that blackened sound kind of opened up the audience in a weird kind of way, you know?
Maybe, to be honest with you, I think it's just, metal elitism is a real thing. And
it is.
It just takes time for people to, like, you know, okay, maybe the first record you put out, okay, anyone can put out one record. But as time goes on, record 3, record 4, record 5, maybe people start to gain some respect. Or maybe they liked the third record but not the first record, that type of thing. So it just takes time to reach people with a new sound.
Like I say, going into the topic of, like, metal gatekeeperisms, if you will, there are times, man, I've actually used to play with a thrash metal band a couple years back, and I was the dude who would kind of, like, dress the way I am. I'd have, like, you know, my pants sleeves rolled up a little bit and stuff like that, cuff my sleeves, and man, they just hated that shit. I did not last with that band that well. And I played with a tech death band recently, too, and I was, like, the weird one out who listened to, like, R&B and deathcore and hip-hop and other genres. So even though that the audience is maybe diversifying a little bit more, the gatekeeperisms are still going to be stuck there for quite a while.
You're right, yeah. There's always going to be bad actors, no doubt. You know
absolutely.
What I mean? Always, you know, there's no escaping that. But I feel like at least it's got to the point now where we're getting fresh blood. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like us in Suicide of Whitechapel, like, running with it. Like, we're getting fresh blood that are reaching, like, newer kids on TikTok, which, you know, Carnifex isn't really on TikTok. So if Lorna or Angel Maker or Brand can reach a fan, they come to the show, and then they see this whole bill, we all just got a new fan, you know? And that's what, we saw that a lot on Warped Tour. You know, we were kind of we were out with After the Burial, but we were kind of the only, like, brutal deathcore band on Warped Tour, you know? And it was a ton of people saying, I never heard of you guys ever before, but I'm made in the shade fan right now.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is that our music always had appeal, but, you know, the genre's been suppressed, unfortunately.
It's also sort of the Marvel Comics thing, too, where the comics were big to kids and stuff when we were younger. Like, when we were kids, comic books and all that was a big thing to us, but only in paper. And now those comic book people, that the readers, the fans that have grown up, and you see the industry the way it is now, and a similar thing happening with our music is that deathcore, I think, was looked at as sort of childish.
Yeah.
Because it was just a bunch of hardcore kids that wanted to play blast beats or whatever. But now we're all growing up, and our fan base has grown up a bit, and the older people tend to have money and influence, and then those people are also starting to work in the industry too. Those kids that were fans that didn't just stay fans, they wanted to be a part of it, and maybe not musically, but they're getting jobs at record companies or whatever, and they're able to have that voice to push the bands that they like, which coincidentally happen to be us, Suicide, that stuff.
Yeah.
So the deathcore has a foot in the door with the people that grew up listening to it and felt asked out by everyone else, and now they're able to work in it and have a voice and bring the music they like, us, into the limelight. So it's the same kind of thing. You watch, the comic book was nothing, and then now Marvel Comics is like the biggest fucking company ever. So now the same thing's happening with deathcore, is that the people are growing up and having an influence on the industry. So it's not just what a bunch of fucking 45, 50-year-old fucking old dudes want to listen to. It's now the young kids grew up and they're bringing in the new flavor.
Well, it's also amazing too, because I remember deathcore obviously was a really big underground, or not really big, but it was an underground movement in like the early 2000s. There were kind of whispers of bands and stuff like that, and a lot of you guys were kind of starting out. Then when the MySpace era came in and YouTube started to become a thing, I think what also helped the popularity at the time was like the brutal breakdown compilations. Like, if you guys seen those on YouTube, where it's like millions of views, like the top 10 most brutal breakdowns. And I feel in some ways that we're still in that era, but now we have more of a vocal version of that. Like, what's the filthiest breakdown vocals we can do and stuff like that,
It's very cyclical. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Like, it's very 05, 06 right now. I remember when we were doing those first shows, like, all the local openers are just big, giant breakdowns, and the vocalist is just trying to do, like, the best squeal he can get out, and then here we are, 17 years later, and every local opener is the biggest, like, diminished breakdown they can do, and some crazy fucking vocals. I'm like, wow, we literally went all the way around the block, and we're right back at the beginning. I personally fucking love it, because that's, like, where Carnifex came from, was writing ignorant shit, and then, you get into the industry, and they kind of want to turn you into, like, a quantifiable metal product.
Yeah.
And so, 17 years in, that stuff sort of just takes its hold and stuff. But like Cory made a point yesterday, or a moment ago, was, the way the industry is becoming more accepting, I think is really going to change the idea that you can have a deathcore band that actually can maybe be like a legit touring band, like Cannibal or Lamb of God, or a band that you can just, is like, okay, those guys are just going to tour till they can't,
So you could probably write a dissertation about like the commodification of like punk, hardcore, and metal and stuff like that. It's just a thing that happens as counterculture movements have lasted for as long as they have. Eventually, they come to the surface, kind of like Marvel Comics and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, even the marijuana industry.
Yeah, big time.
All the people that I went to high school with, we should just go to the fucking store. And now they grew up and started a business, and people got into politics clearly, and they've made that movement, and it's that whole thing of, the people that grew up with something that they liked that wasn't so mainstream or wasn't accepted, and now they're old enough to have that influence, and you see it just everywhere now. It's great too, it's just great to see that. Like, when we started, we're like, I don't know, is this really gonna fucking last? Like, nobody gives a shit. We're like kind of ridiculed. People think we're a joke, and then here we are now. And, our genre of music that we helped start is now one of the, it's accepted. It's one of the main metal things, and it's like, it's big everywhere. People use it for all sorts of shit. It's great.
To even expand off that thought, what I noticed about like my time with the metal and the core community and stuff like that is that deathcore does a really good job of appealing to the youth. Whereas I find like
it's fun.
It is fun, and that's actually something that, when people ask me, what's the difference between death metal and deathcore? There are some musical characteristics, but one is a little bit more self-serious and grimy and guttural than the other, and the other one's a little bit more bouncy.
Started using all those fucking samples, right?
Yeah.
And old metal dudes hated that.
Oh, they
shit.
do.
They're like, a Jim Carrey quote before a blast beat? The fuck is wrong with you? You're like, it's funny. Don't you think that's funny? It's funny.
Well,
they're just like, no fun. You suck. You're a joke. Get lost. It's just like, God, you guys are so close-minded.
It's so funny you say that. I was listening to Lie to My Face the other day, and that one clip, I think it's Tourette's guy saying, "What the fuck?" And then the
it's our drummer, but yeah, exactly.
Oh, is it? I was like, I thought that when we were driving together, actually, I was like, "Babe, is that a Tourette's guy sample?"
But it's fucking
I
funny.
said maybe they're friends with Tourette's guy.
Yeah, he's our drummer. He's a real man. He's got a Tourette's guy already.
Don't tell him I said that.
No, that sample is an outtake from the studio when he fucking up. We just kept it and put it in there.
Yeah, when we were tracking that, I just finished guitars.
Probably good for this.
So we were, they were doing something, and I went outside to have a cigarette, and I came back, and they're like, "Dude, check this out." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "We're going to play something. We just figured this out. This is great. It's going on the record because it's a sample. It's Sean." And he's like, "Hit it." And they played it, and I was like, "This is fucking great, man. I can't believe this is awesome."
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I think we always wanted to bring, like, that touch of, like, I can't believe they did that. That's kind of why,
right.
like, look at how crazy the vocals are, like, how drawn out and extreme the breakdowns are. Deathcore is kind of about trying to have an oh shit moment in each song. And I think if you look at death metal and black metal, it's more of a uniform trend. It's like a very subtle arc through the whole song. Whereas deathcore is like they're gonna jump high to low, So it's like, I think for the younger person, it's just more. It's a little more. You get more surprises.
Yeah, I can't speak for all bands, obviously, but like as far as we go, like we take our cues as songwriting from new metal bands and stuff, and where they weren't radio music, but they still had that kind of pop structure a little bit, where you have an intro and a verse, chorus, and a bridge kind of thing. And we didn't start that way, but we sort of incorporated that in. But we take those moments where you would normally just hear a pop chorus 48 times, like we'll just play the chorus again, and then let's throw in a breakdown moment or something that brings it. So then you're not just, like you said with death metal and stuff, where like, as good as all these bands are, they do kind of have, the song starts and it just goes and then it ends, and they're great songs, but we kind of feel like ours is sort of a story, it has an arc. The middle of the song kind of gets heightened, and then our breakdown is like the big moment. You're reading the book or whatever you're watching, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And then the end of the song comes, and then there's that. That's cool. And I think the other thing that goes about our music is that, like a lot of bands don't have a lot of substance sometimes, where their music's about something, but it's not really personal or anything. And again, we take our stuff from new metal, and you look at like Korn, Slipknot, and stuff. Jonathan Davis and Cory, they write about personal experiences and stuff that people can actually relate to. And Scott does that with every fucking song. And we see that with a lot of other bands too. It's a way for these vocalists to get shit off their chest and write about stuff, and then that gives people something to relate to. And I think along with that the way the music goes, and then something to listen to that has something, I've been to this. This is awesome. It's another way to feel the music on another level.
So go ahead.
A lot of bands don't really have that. I mean, there are bands that have that, and you can write a song about murder or whatever, and that's cool. Like, if you like horror movie stuff, that's right up your alley, because then you're listening to a song about a horror movie. But for me personally, music has always been something that kept me from not living anymore. It was the one thing that I could listen, and I don't know that guy, but he's singing about stuff that I understand and I relate to it, and it makes me feel like I'm not home. And that's a cool thing, and that gives a lot of kids something to hang on to, especially now with the hyper awareness of mental illness and all that, and knowing that there's other people that maybe you don't know or you look up to that feel the same way as you or wake up with the same thoughts and ideas. It's something to grab onto, and that gives music a whole other meaning. You like the music, but now you like the substance and what it's about, and it's a huge thing, especially if you watch a movie that does that for you. It becomes a movie you watch all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Because either it makes you feel a certain way, or it reminds you that how you're feeling is not weird, you're not alone, not whatever. That's something to grab onto.
Well, even with the passing of Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder recently, I think it really did put the mental health awareness into the forefront and stuff like that. And I think that's what I really like about your guys' music, even though you are talking about like death and destruction and those kind of like song topics and stuff like that, because it's way more fun, it kind of does have that catharsis that a person who might be struggling might really enjoy. Whereas if you listen to black metal, and that could be like the spiral of spirals, right? Because it keeps on engulfing you in that very depressed sound. It's very cavernous and like, because there was a period where I was listening to a lot of dissonant death metal, like, you know, a lot of like old Gorguts and stuff like that. And when I walked away from it, they're amazing, but I have to be in the mood for it because, you know, it's not very fun. It really demands your attention and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But what do you guys think of the new guard of music that's been coming up? You know, a lot of interesting innovations that have been going on, like the dissonant death metal stuff seems to be getting off the ground. We have more of symphonic black and deathcore sound, and even with like trap metal. What's your guys' take on some of the newer trends happening?
I think it's to be expected. You know, it's like look at how deathcore came around. You know, we liked Bleeding Through and we liked Cannibal Corpse, and we were young enough to not care that we weren't supposed to like them both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know we were only allowed to like one or the other, right? And so when we started a band, we go, well, fucking Cannibal Corpse riff, and then a Bleeding Through breakdown, and then people showed up and go, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know? But we're like, who gives a shit? We don't care. We're kids, you know? We started this band when we were 20. I'm 37, you know? It's like, we were just trying to have fun. And fun is, I really love this part of this band. I really love this part of this band. Smash. Here we are, you know, and I think the exact same thing is happening as you progress through genres. Obviously, when we were coming up, there was no deathcore, so that was the next step. Now that deathcore already exists, now it's like, it's like electronic trap deathcore, you know, or like extreme brutal slam beatdown deathcore. It's like, it's always the next evolution, you know what I mean? I think, you know, we were the next evolution for a phase, and we found our spot, and there's going to be evolutions after all these bands, you know, as time goes on. So.
We know what I say about music. I don't understand why people sometimes take it too seriously, because music is just wiggly air that makes us want to move. You know, when push comes to shove, right? And you know, all the gatekeeper stuff, especially if you do want to take those Cannibal Corpse rips and those Bleeding Through breakdowns, it's disappointing to see that some people do take that so seriously, and, you know, bring a person down. And,
at least like that. I mean, we literally just started writing music
fun.
with it. Like,
right.
This whole band is like, I mean, they kind of started when I showed up, so they were already like developing the idea and all that. But I think Scott, Sean, and myself, when we were coming up with stuff, was just the music that we started with and what we're writing was just shit we weren't hearing or weren't hearing enough of.
Yeah.
Like, I like blast beats, but I don't really like solos that much. And I think a 5-minute fucking guitar solo is boring, especially if it's just whatever, you know, like. But you put some melodies, feeling into it, or maybe don't put one and just put the melody in the music and let the thing go. You know, like it was literally just, I'm not hearing this, so I want to fucking make it.
Sure.
And I don't really give a shit if people don't like that. And I guess we got lucky that people did like it.
And we're all self-taught, you know, like no one in this band went to music school.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? Like everything we learned was because, you know, Cory had an Iowa tablet when he was 14. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
yeah.
We didn't have anything other than our passion for music. So when you listen to Dead in My Arms, like that's literally just 20-year-old kids trying to make something they hadn't heard before. We're completely on the outside of the industry. We're in fucking Fallbrook. It was like the middle of nowhere, you know?
Right, yeah.
And we're just having fun, and then MySpace ran with it, you know what I mean? So I think there was no great plan, you know what I mean? It was literally just a very genuine, like uninformed raw output, you know?
Yeah. So one final thought before I let you guys go. Earlier you talked about what it might possibly take to get a deathcore band on that next level to be more of a stable touring act. What do you think that next step would have to be?
I mean, acceptance is a big part. I think the industry at large needs to, like, look at all the award shows. Like, has a deathcore band ever got a Grammy nom?
Can't say, no.
How the Valley didn't get a Grammy nom? Right. Give me a break, dude. That record is the combination of insane deathcore and then all that, like, rock they put in, Phil's voice. chapel can't do it, who's gonna do it? I don't know, man. It's acceptance and time is what I think it is.
And I personally don't ever want to be part of any of that shit. I mean, if we get into war, we get into war. It's whatever. But I'm not like. And personally, it's just like maybe this is off topic or maybe whatever. But you look at stuff like Eminem, how he gets invited constantly, and they put you in a scene. You're all these fucking people. And it's like they just want your fucking face there, and then you look at like this dude. He's like the number one fucking biggest rapper ever, and even all the dudes that were around before him are like, he's the best, he's the GOAT, there's no one better, and they just shit all over him. It's like, you really want to be part of that? Like, no, I don't want to keep me away from that shit, dude. Award shows, it's just a way for the industry to be like, this person's special, and fuck all the rest of you. And like,
right.
And then you look at like, how is someone putting out their first album getting like artist of the year or something? Like, you're fucking nobody, dude.
It's all industry stuff.
You showed up and you put out some album that you sang on, and some 5 other producers wrote your music, and now you're artist of the year. That's bullshit. That's fucking money and industry crap, and I don't want to be part of any of that. I'm happy doing what we're doing here. Fuck the award shows. Fuck all that shit.
We're happy to have you here, man.
The people that matter are the people that pay money for these fucking tickets to come to these shows. The shit's sold out. That's what fucking matters.
Fuck yeah.
Award shows, that shit is not bad. You know, and that's why you look at like Mudvayne won a Grammy.
Yeah.
They wore white suits and put bullet holes in their head. And basically went up and told MTV to go fuck themselves and said the award was for their fans, and they left. And I was like, pretty bad. Sitting at home like 16 years old, like, yes, we fucking love you guys.
You spoke to me. That's
Perfect.
awesome. Yeah.
It's exactly what everyone should be doing when they win an award. Especially bands that have been around. When you give a new artist that, they're gonna be yay. But a band
Sure.
like Mudvayne and stuff, they're around and they've made success with no help. Nobody gives a shit about bands like that because they're weird and crazy.
Yeah.
But, and then they give them a Grammy and they're like, we know this is bullshit. This is meaningless. So this award's for the fans. You guys can all go fuck yourself around.
Great. Well, there you have it, folks. This was Scott and Cory from Carnifex. Thank you so much for your time, fellas. I really
Always.
appreciate it.